Hello and welcome. This is Your Mac Life for Wednesday, February the 26th, 2014, show number 923. I am your host for the next hour and a half of funness, Sean King. On tonight's show, I talked to our good friend Jim Dalrymple about a little bit about the Olympics, because we're Canadians, so we have to at least talk about it a little bit more. So hopefully you'll forgive us, but not very much. We're also going to talk about the butt-ugly Steve Jobs statue, Google Glass, and a bunch of other stuff. We'll talk to Jim about that. We're also going to talk to what am I talking about? Sorry, just got someone in the IRC chat room saying, yeah, okay. We'll also talk to the co-founder of drinkdistiller.com. They have an iOS app called Distiller. It's actually kind of cool. If you folks remember, a few months ago, I interviewed the folks from Wine Spectator magazine about their iOS app, about wine, and so I figured I'd give the whiskey guys a shot at it too, because I'm a bigger fan of whiskey than I am of wine. And hopefully you are too, or will be. One of the problems, and we talked about this in the interview, that most folks who try whiskey tried it in the early 20s, or they tried bad whiskey, and it burned, and it was an awful feeling and flavor, so I didn't like it. But good whiskey doesn't really burn, and we'll talk about that. But the app is kind of cool because it lets you, and we'll talk about this obviously in the interview, it lets you get recommendations about whiskey along your whiskey flavor profile, whether you want it mild, whether you want it strong, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool. Go to the iOS store, or the iTunes store, do a search for Distiller is the app. We'll talk to Mikael Mossberg about that. We're also going to be giving away $50 in cold, hard cash. Someone on tonight's show will win $50. I promise. I can absolutely guarantee that someone's going to win $50. And you got to like that. One of our Secret Santas gave me $200 to give away one Wednesday each month until the 20th anniversary of Mac Podcasting Show on March 19th. So if you go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com, at the top of the page, you'll see Friends of YML Contest entry form. Fill that form out with a viable email address, because that's how I contact you, is by your email address. And I'll drop your name in the virtual hat, and maybe on tonight's show, you'll be able to win $50. Simple as that. Doesn't cost a thing. Doesn't cost anything to enter our contest. Remember, on the 19th show, we're giving away prizes from 16 different companies. I want to say thanks very much to all the great companies that are giving stuff away. Pad and Quill is giving away 2 of their little pocket books for iPhone 5. Boink Software is giving away 1 each of iStop Motion for Mac, Photomagico, and Boink's TV. Take Control Books, Tidbits, is giving away a 1-year subscription to the entire Take Control library. Tom Bin is giving away a Synapse 25 backpack. Glovely is giving away 5 pairs of Glovely Classic touchscreen gloves. Our friends at Small Software are giving away 1 PDF Pen family pack and Text Expander for Mac and iOS family pack. The nice folks at Mac Fun are giving away 3 creative kits, a bundle consisting of Snap Heal Pro and Intensify Pro. Scotty Vest is giving away a Sev Pack jacket. Danny P is giving away iPhone 5 leather wallet cases. Pixelmator is giving away 5 copies of Pixelmator. Topaz Labs is giving away a complete collection of their photography enhancement and editing software. Primo Vista is giving away a Bamboo iPhone 5 case and 2 Bamboo iPhone speakers. Fuse Designs is giving away 2 Everdocs. Connex is giving away 10 HBS-style Napa trim iPhone wallets. Nifty Drives is giving away 3 Nifty Drives. Nifty Mini Drives, actually. And Backblaze is giving away 3 1-year unlimited online backup subscriptions to Backblaze. So thanks very much to all those companies who are giving stuff away on the show on March 19th. Now, you can also enter that contest too. If you do it through the website with the form and do it for the free way, you'll have to do it again on March 1st, or at some point in time between March 1st and March 19th. Because at the end of every month, I throw away those entry forms to make you do it again, because, that's what I'm doing. I'm forcing you to do it my way. But if you want the entry form to go in automatically, without any further ado on your part, go to our website at yourmaclifeshow.com. On the left-hand side there, you can see that you can subscribe to Your Mac Life at $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever bucks a month you'd like to do. Comes out of your PayPal account or major credit card. And that sends me that amount of money each month, and I put your name in the virtual hat on your behalf. So you don't got to worry about it. As long as your PayPal subscription continues on, I keep putting your name in the hat. And for every amount over $2, every $2 amount over $2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 15, no, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I put an extra entry form in there for you. It's a little incentive to drop a couple bucks into our PayPal account. Jimmy Newton says that growing list of prizes is amazing. Good show of appreciation for the event from the sponsors. Yeah, it is. I absolutely agree with you. And there's a couple other companies who are, I just got emails from them today who are going to be putting stuff in. I'm going to keep trying to get more companies involved. So as you see or talk to or Facebook or Twitter, any of these companies that I've mentioned, please give them a shout out and say thanks to them for supporting Your Mac Life and giving stuff away. We probably got about, I think, $2,500 worth of stuff to give away. Well, now including the $200 from the Secret Santa, $2,700 of stuff to give away. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. I wish more were. I wish we could do a show where it's nothing but giving away prizes. It's just one show. All I do is draw names out of a hat. It may not be the most interesting show in the world, but it'd be kind of fun to give away that much stuff. I've always loved giving stuff away. It's just always something that's I've always liked doing. So let's see what else we got going on. Oh, don't forget, as always, if you're tuned into the video but not in the IRC chat room, we always encourage you folks to join us in the IRC chat room. The easiest way to do it is go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there on the front page is the YouTube video, and below that is the IRC chat room. All you have to do is type in the information. You're not going to know anything about IRC. There's no special software or anything else like that. Our friend Monty down there in Atlanta, Georgia, coded that up for us. And it puts the IRC chat room right there below the video. So you can watch the video and participate in the IRC at the same time. But if you are a traditional IRCer and use separate IRC software like I do, you can go to the IRC server at irc.chat-solutions.org, and we're in the pound Your Mac Life channel. So join us either way in the IRC. IRC is fun. We always say it's half the fun of the show, and I wish more folks would get involved. I can see we've got more people tuned in live right now to the show than are in the IRC chat room. So no one's going to bite you. They're nice people. Sly is there as the traffic cop, so she makes sure everything's above board and no one is a jerk to anyone, so keep that in mind. Also, we email, as always. Email us to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com, or as the video behind me shows, you can email me at onair@yml.me. Goes to the same place. Goes to the same place. So as I said before, the March 19th show will be the origin story of Your Mac Life, which I think is kind of cool and fun and something I've never done before. So we'll do that. I can't believe how much conversation this has caused. We've got a few minutes here before we get Jim Dalrymple on the phone or on the Google chat. Did you guys? You guys know that I post to the Loop on a fairly regular basis. And there was this funny story about how America has fallen out of love with orange juice. And it's bizarre, the kind of stuff that gets posted in the Loop that gets a response. You can post Mac stuff, and it might not get a response. But I posted this about orange juice, and we've got, 15 or 20 comments already about it. I don't know why this interests me so much. Do you drink orange juice on any kind of regular basis? Most of us drink it for breakfast. I don't mean a screwdriver and else. I don't mean it part of your booze diet. But how many of us still, as adults, still drink orange juice? Now, I didn't drink it when I was a kid. We couldn't afford it. So I've never had orange juice with breakfast. That was never a thing for me. I think that's why, I don't drink orange juice now. And it's not even just for health reasons, because orange juice has a lot of sugar and there's that whole concentrate, not for concentrate stuff. I don't care about that. But it's just something I never got used to drinking. But one of the weird things is, whenever I go to a restaurant for breakfast, if I go to an IHOP or a diner or any place I'm going for breakfast, I must have orange juice. I don't know why. I will order coffee and a small orange juice. I didn't want a big orange juice. I just want a coffee and a small orange juice. Every single time I go to a diner. So what about you guys? Is that something you guys do? Do you still drink orange juice? I asked on Twitter and got some interesting comments from folks. Some people still do have their daily glass of orange juice in various forms, whether it's, again, the concentrate or whatever it might be. See, I don't know why this fascinates me. I see we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple in the loop, from the loop. So I've decided I'm going to do this for Jim. That's Jim's theme music. Mr. Dalrymple, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I got to figure out what the hell I'm doing with audio here. Hang on a second. Let me just turn this volume down. I've got volume in my headset, Jim, that I can't change. Let's see if that works. Sorry, there you are.
Hey.
How's your week been?
Week's been good.
Good. Did you enjoy the final weekend of the Olympics?
That music started again.
Yeah, I just turned it off. Oh,
no.
Yeah, I got this screwed up. I think my Firefox audio is still... Okay, I'm just gonna all right, there we go. We're back now. Sorry about that, Jim.
It's still going.
Yeah, it will for a few more seconds. I think. Is it still going?
Yep.
What? Ah, stop. There we go.
There.
Now it's just up. I tried a new audio setup, and I screwed it up.
Yeah.
Surprising no one. So I shall ask the question again. How was your last weekend of the Olympics? Did you enjoy the Olympics?
I did. Well, the last day of the Olympics was Canada hockey game.
Pretty frickin'. I wish that had been a better, more interesting game. No offense to the Swedes. We certainly dominated them, but it would have been nicer. I don't think my heart could have taken it. Did you get up and watch it live?
Oh, yeah.
No, of course. I don't think there was any doubt that 50% of the Canadian population, whether you actually are a hockey fan or not, you got up to watch that game. It was 3 a.m. here on the West Coast.
Well, they opened the bars at 6 a.m. in Halifax. So, yeah, people were drunk by the time the game started.
They were allowed to open bars here in British Columbia, but they weren't allowed to serve alcohol.
Pussies.
Well, yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of going to a bar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was a good game.
You can go to Denny's and drink coffee, God.
Exactly. So it was a good game. Glad we won. Glad the men got gold in hockey. Women got gold in hockey. Curling gold, men and women. So, yeah, the two sports that I wanted to see Canada do the best in, we did pretty good. Overall, I think... It was
definitely successful.
It was definitely successful, yes. And overall, for the Russian people, I'm not going to say for the Russian government or anyone else like that, but for the Russian people, they should be quite proud of the Olympics they put on, shouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. That was great.
I think from what we saw, and now the media often wants to find the worst stories, and I was looking for those stories, but there weren't very many of them. After the first rush of tweets about unfinished hotel rooms, we heard nothing.
No.
We heard nothing about it. The only issue, there was one timing issue I heard about in the first few days of the Olympics, but there was never any, because we thought these people were not ready for this event. And in the opening ceremonies, when the Olympic rings didn't open up, everyone thought, oh, geez, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But they pulled it off, and congratulations to the Russian people. They did a fantastic job as far as I could see, even with fairly unpleasant for winter Olympic conditions with fog and not the right snow and really warm temperatures. I think they did a great job.
They dealt with all of that,
Yeah, they absolutely did. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, too, is that it's the Winter Olympics. They're used to dealing with the vagaries of weather, whether it's too much snow or not enough snow or that kind of stuff. So you're kind of used to it for the most part. And a lot of the sports are indoors, too. All the ice sports are indoors. So, and the folks that were cross-country skiing, they're used to skiing in weird kind of elements, in very, very cold or very, very warm. So
yeah,
I don't think it was that much of a deal. I'm just glad to see there was no violence, which a lot of folks were worried about. We thought there was going to be some sort of incident, and there wasn't. So, yeah, I think kudos to the folks in Russia for doing an amazing job. Now, the next thing is, what's going to happen to sport in Russia, to Sochi in Russia, to the buildings, I don't think they're going to fare any better, or for that matter, any worse than any other Olympics. We always hear about how they're going to repurpose this and that, but for the most part, most of the places that have held Olympics, summer or winter, the venues are no longer around. Atlanta is a dead zone for their Olympic Village in that area. Same with places like Sarajevo and things like that. So I don't expect a whole lot to be left over in 5 or 10 years from Sochi, but that's not really the point of the Olympics.
What's kind of sad is that they spend $50 billion on that.
Yep. Yeah, they. That's the advantage of living in a totalitarian government. Even the Chinese were like, "You spent how much?"
Yeah.
We had 10,000 people in the opening ceremony, and you spent how much?
Yeah, it's too bad that it all. Well, I mean, it can be used for the World Cup circuits and stuff like that, but
Someone posted this on Twitter, and I want to get your comments, Jim. When did you become Professor Dalrymple writing a ferry field guide?
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought it was hilarious. Professor Dalrymple's Guide to Ferries. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. If that's how he rolls, I can't say anything about it. There's nothing I can say. What you do in your personal life is your personal life.
I know, it was extra pay at the time,
Exactly. Yeah, you got to make a little bit of money on the side. Speaking of making a little bit of money on the side, I got to believe that the folks at Sony have got to be tearing their hair out when their chief of mobile operations gives advice to Apple. Did you see this story?
I did not.
Sony says, this is the Sony mobile chief and European president Pierre Perron says that Apple is missing out by not releasing new iPhones twice a year.
Oh.
Now, thank you. I'm sure Tim Cook is sitting there at One Infinite Loop saying, thank you, Mr. Sony, but really? You're giving me advice on when and how I should operate my mobile business?
Wow.
Apple last quarter made more money than Sony did in 2013.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's not a person you should be taking advice from, or a person who should be giving advice to a major competitor.
Yeah, he should just shut up.
He should just shut up. It was just a bizarre story that he would even think that this is something that he should or is qualified to talk about.
But yet here he is.
But there he is, shooting his mouth off at the MWC, the Mobile World Congress.
I did not see that. That's classic.
They say that Apple's missing out by updating the iPhone only once a year. Yeah. And the logic behind that is that Sony will update on a more regular basis because it allows customers to get the latest and greatest of any particular 3-month period of time. You understand what he means by that? And he's kind of right, but I think he's kind of right only for a very, very narrow segment of the buying population, the uber techie geeks who need the latest and greatest thing the second it's available.
I think that you have to ask then, how's that working for them?
Exactly.
I mean, really. There's a difference, and I think that this is something that these companies don't understand, Samsung included. The latest and greatest technology, to say that you have it is fine, but does it work? And, NFC is a perfect example.
Yep.
Where is it?
Yep, exactly.
I mean, didn't Samsung put it in one of their Galaxies like 3 years ago or something?
No.
Where is it? Show me the people that are using NFC every single day because they just have to have it.
This guy is quoted in the article as, when asked why Sony is releasing the Xperia Z2 so soon after the Xperia Z1, Perron said it was to make sure the firm brings the customer, quote, the best technology on the best platform and to make sure our consumers aren't disappointed in any way. Now, I can understand him saying that, but from a consumer point of view, aren't you more disappointed when you buy a phone and then a very short period of time, say a month later, a new latest and greatest phone comes out with new technology?
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. Aren't you more disappointed by that?
Yeah.
So I think that while it may work for Sony, and it obviously doesn't, for him to suggest that this is something Apple should do is just mind-bogglingly stupid.
I don't get that, but
Yeah,
you know,
I don't get why he would even begin to offer advice to Apple, because A,
well,
they're a major competitor, and B, they're not doing so well against Apple.
yeah. I mean, he must have been fired, was he?
Probably. This was only yesterday, so it's certainly possible that. Oh yeah, someone said in the RC chat room, Sony is closing 20 of their stores in the U.S. So how's that working out for you, Sony?
Yeah.
That's
just awful.
This is an interesting story, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. And I'm going to take the contrarian point of view here, Jim, just to warn you ahead of time. Okay. Apple steps into local politics, urges Arizona governor to veto an anti-gay bill. Now, I think we can all agree that this is one of the most idiotic pieces of legislation that we've all seen in a very long time. But should Apple be getting involved in what is ostensibly local Arizona politics?
Well, Apple's been involved in federal politics.
Yes.
And now the reason that they're getting involved, as I see it, in local politics is that Apple is a very diverse company. And I think that they believe that, live and let live. That seems to be their philosophy. And Apple is looking at doing business in Arizona. So Apple has every right at that point to question the government and to, like any American can, make suggestions. I don't think that it's out of bounds for them to do that.
Again, this is me being contrarian, which for those folks who may not understand, it means I'm taking the opposite view on purpose. You said Apple has a live and let live philosophy. Why can't Apple let Arizona live and let live? Let Arizona make their own rules.
Oh, Arizona can feel free to make their own rules. Then they don't need that billion-dollar factory or all of those jobs.
Apple is not going to not open that factory. That's going to open up in the next month or so. They're not going to shutter that factory.
Really?
I can't imagine that Apple would put its Sapphire production on hold for another year and a half. That's going to be how long it's going to take to build a new factory somewhere else, simply because the Arizona government signs this legislation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if there was a situation where Apple was unhappy, I think that the government would have to take notice. And if somebody like Apple is bringing that much money into your state, your town, over what is I think I don't know what to call it. Is it a basic fundamental right to just live your life as you want? I mean, it's not like Apple is saying, well, we'll build this factory and we'll operate this factory as long as we don't have to hire any white people.
Yeah.
Which
I wouldn't have a problem with.
All the white people. Yeah, of course you wouldn't. Get all the white people out, and then we'll go ahead and do it. But
good luck finding that many brothers in Arizona.
Yeah, well,
Now, I'm going to get off. Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. Yep.
This is more, look, we want everybody treated equal, regardless. And if you're not going to treat everybody equal, we may have a bit of a problem.
I think Apple is looking at this from the point of view of this is not a states' right issue. This is not a religious issue. This is not an issue of control or leverage or power. This is a human rights issue.
Right.
And I have no problem, to be clear, if you have a religious objection to anyone and their lifestyle, I have no problem with you having that objection. I have a problem when you use that objection to refuse basic services to people, or even non-basic services to people. If you refuse to serve someone cupcakes because they're gay, you're an asshole.
Correct.
And as I put on my Suya link, George Takai on Facebook posted this great picture of 4 blacks at a lunch counter in, I think it was Salem, Mississippi, back in 1955. Dear Arizona, in case you missed it, we've already had this conversation. You don't get to decide who sits at the lunch counter. Love America.
Yeah. Well, but there are people out there who do believe that.
Yep.
That you can't. And, you know, I mean, there's so many different ways to take this conversation. I also, and so does Monique, believe in, you know, live and let live. I don't care if you're religious. I don't care if you're straight or gay or whatever. I could care less. It means nothing to me. You wanna chat about, you know, hockey or technology or whatever, that's fine. And you know, now ask yourself as a person, would you live in a town that discriminated against, you know, white people, black people, gay people? You know, I don't want to be involved in that myself. That's just my own decision. And you know, Canada's pretty open-minded, I think.
I think it's part of it too, is that because you and I are Canadians, and we settled this issue more than 10 years ago about gays getting married. And there was some objection to it, and I accept and understand the objection.
Sure.
But it didn't seem to be this kind of governmental backlash as we see in Kansas and now Arizona. I think this is a ridiculous situation. It makes the people of Arizona look idiotic. It makes the legislature of Arizona look idiotic, and it's going to cost them business. I heard today that the NFL is looking at relocating next year's Super Bowl from Arizona to someplace else if Governor Jan Brewer signs this legislation. Well, which I think is the right thing to do.
It's hard to say what's right or wrong. I think it's the right thing to do. You know, that's just my opinion. I think it's the right thing for Apple as a company. You know, when you go on the Apple campus, there are all kinds of different people there.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't bother anybody. It doesn't bother me.
Yep.
There may be people that go to the Apple campus that would be bothered. And I think that's unfortunate. It really is, because these people are very smart. Clearly, they're at Apple.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, if that's the way people want to live their lives by doing stuff like that. I mean, I hate you, but you know, that's different.
But see, you have good reason to. I mean, hating someone for the color of their skin or religion or who they sleep with is stupid. Hating them for good reason, I have no problem with that. If you hate them because you actually don't like them, you've met them, you've talked to them, you've dealt with them, and you go, yeah, not so much. I'm okay with it, which is why I have no problem with people on the internet not liking me. I'm okay with that because I've probably given you reason.
Yeah. You know? I have never met you, but I'm pretty sure I gave you reason.
Exactly. And I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with this next story about the statue, the butt-ugly statue, quote-unquote, honoring Steve Jobs. Does this story give you any kind of pause? Dave Mark posted it up on loopinsight.com. Do you think this is a real story? This feels fishy to me.
You know, well, first of all, it is pretty ugly.
Oh yeah, it's just spectacularly ugly, and there's no way that anyone could say this. I don't care your feelings about modern art or sculpture or anything else like that. This is objectively an ugly piece of metal.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for how ugly this thing is. But okay, fine. Some Serbian sculptor built this. Do you believe that Apple had any hand in this at all? The original story, and it may be a bad Google Translate, the original story says that Johnny Ive said he liked it, that Apple management said he liked it, and the story says that the sculpture is now on its way to Cupertino to be put, obviously, in a place of honor at One Infinite Loop. Do you believe that?
Well, we'll see.
See,
I don't know.
Apple, could you please call up Tim? I know you've got his number. When you get off the phone with me now, could you call up and ask someone at Apple? Because I put a call into the media helpline. Useless. To find out whether there's any, because no one else seems to have gotten any kind of confirmation from Apple that this is in fact going to happen.
Yeah. I
That's what I
don't
want
know.
to see. All I want to do is see Apple say, yes, we're going to put this in in a place of honor. Folks seem to forget that Steve Jobs hated the statues they used to have on the Apple campus. Folks forget that there used to be a bunch of statues on the Apple campus. As a matter of fact, it was part of the deal that Apple had with the city of Cupertino when they originally built it, that they had to put public works around. And Apple had a bunch of icon statues all over
Yeah.
the campus. When Steve Jobs came back, shortly after, he removed those things and never put them back, even though he told Cupertino City Council, oh yeah, they're just out for cleaning. He literally said that. He literally told the City Council of Cupertino, oh yeah, they're a little grungy. We're just putting them out for cleaning. They never
10
came
years
back.
ago.
10 years ago, they never came back.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing's going to happen here.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, you hadn't heard that story?
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Was that that's what happened. Jobs hated those icons and hated the way they cluttered up the grounds of the campus. That's why they got rid of them. But yeah, I don't believe for a second that this is an actual Apple story. I wish someone could get confirmation from Apple with it. I don't think that anyone at Apple really believes this is an attractive piece of art and that it will go in Cupertino. I just don't believe that at all.
Well, I think the most attractive piece of art that's going in Cupertino anytime soon is the new campus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's going to be spectacularly beautiful. That's just going to be, and I'm dying to go and see it. I'd love to. It'll be ready, I think, in 3 or 4 years. I think someone said.
Yeah.
So I would definitely like to see that. You and I have talked about this a couple of times, and just a new story up at Reuters. Google sets roadblocks to stop distracted driving legislation. Google is trying to stop several states where these laws get passed from banning Google Glass while you're driving a vehicle. Do you agree with this?
That's stupid.
What's stupid? Using Google Glass while driving,
No.
or banning them?
Using it. They should ban it.
Why?
Oh my God. Because you're going to be completely distracted with it. I mean, there's heads-up display in cars right on your windshield. But
Yep.
heads-up display is to show you what's going on in your car,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to look away. Google Glass is going to make you look away, and it's going to distract you. What are you going to do? Start checking emails, or Google Glass, record a video, or take a picture of this thing way over on my right-hand side, or I'm going to look behind me and take a picture of my kid playing. Come on.
But by that logic, wouldn't we also say then ban cell phone use in cars? Because
It is banned.
No, it's not. You can still use your cell phone in a car. You can use hands-free cell phone communication in your car.
Hands-free is
Yes.
different. I can call somebody without ever touching my phone.
But there are many cars nowadays that will allow you to see your text messages on a screen in your vehicle. That's just as distracting.
Sure it is.
And shouldn't those things be banned too?
Sure. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Neither do I. I mean, I'd like to ban.
The only problem I have with the brand name of Google in this is that Google is fighting against it.
Yeah.
I think that obviously text messaging should be banned. I mean, maybe they track the accelerometer, and if you're going over 5 miles an hour, your text just automatically shut off.
Yeah.
And you can't do it. But I see people all the time texting.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
it drives me nuts.
Yep. I mean, I'm for banning the use in any way, shape, or form of your iPhone, your communication device, your smartphone by the driver. Whether it's hands-free, whether it's any way, shape, or form. You can't Bluetooth. You can't hook it into your entertainment system. No, because driving is dangerous enough without any kind of distractions. You
Yep.
put even a little bit of distraction, And all of a sudden, it gets incrementally and possibly exponentially more dangerous. And I don't mean dangerous for the people in the car. I mean dangerous for guys like me on motorcycles. I've always told the story. I've been riding a motorcycle for about 8 years now, and I've been in almost 25 near accidents. I've been in one real accident. That was my own fault. But I've been in 25 near accidents from distracted drivers, whether they're distracted from the kid or distracted by the phone or distracted by putting on their underwear, wherever the hell it might be.
Craziness.
There's nothing good that can come out of, I think, Google Glass in general, but certainly being able to use Google Glass, because you're right, people will use it in a way that's, even if it's banned, because I still see people, it's banned. You're not allowed to use your phone up against your head in any of the states I've lived in the U.S. or here in British Columbia or in Alberta, and yet you still see people doing it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I still see people coming around a corner and they've got their hand to the side of their face and their cell phones in their hand, even though it's illegal. They still do it.
Yeah.
Did you see this story about the woman who got robbed at a bar because she was wearing Google Glass?
Because she was wearing it?
Because she was wearing Google Glass. And I've been following the story now for a couple of days, and it gets better and better and better the more I read about it.
Well, tell me about it. How could she get robbed just because she had Google Glass?
She was in, okay, so she's not from San Francisco. She's from out of town. She's from one of the suburbs. She is, from her description, she's either a tech writer, a tech journalist, or a San Francisco social media and business consultant. I've seen her described in 3 separate ways by people who have interviewed her. So she's giving out 3 different job descriptions.
Jeez.
She came into the city, and her friends went to a dive bar in San Francisco. It's described as a punk rock bar. It's described as a loser bar. I've seen video of it. It's just a typical dive bar.
Okay.
With all that entailed. I like dive bars. I'm a big fan of dive bars. I enjoy dive bars. She goes in there, and she's showing her Google Glass off to people. And that's okay. That's fine. Someone takes offense to it, and she undoubtedly got snippy. And I'm sorry, but if you're probably a fairly well-off, entitled white girl from the suburbs of San Francisco, don't go into a dive bar and get snippy.
Yeah.
Someone's going to kick your ass. Because that's how it works in dive bars, okay? You can go into a dive bar, but you can't be snippy in a dive bar. Okay?
That's right. No matter who you are.
No matter who you are, exactly, because it's their bar. It's like going into Dave's in San Francisco. When we go to Dave's at Macworld Expo, we respect the rules of the bar.
Yep.
And we respect the people who run the bar and who are behind the bar. We don't go in there and try to turn it into a geek bar.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't do it. You play by their rules.
Never complain about the food at Dave's.
Exactly.
Even though it will kill you.
Not if you plan on eating more of it, because they're going to spit in it, all right? They're going to spit in it, I guarantee you. And that is their right.
Yes. And they do that before they start cooking.
The story is absolutely hilarious because apparently, and she has a little snippet of video posted up on her Facebook page. Oh, and by the way, she considers this a hate crime.
Why?
Because people hate her, apparently.
Well, I hate her. I've never even read the story, let alone met her.
So from that point of view, I agree it's a hate crime. But it's, sweetie, it's not the kind of hate crime you're talking about. Basically what she's saying is people tried to make her stop videoing them in the dive bar. And someone grabbed the glasses off her face. Apparently it went outside. It got kind of physical outside. She grabbed the Google glasses back from the guy who took them. And I can understand. That's an expensive piece of gear. If someone takes my iPhone or takes my laptop, I'm going to try to get it back for you. So I'll give her that. But then she goes back into the bar, and someone's stolen her purse.
Ha, ha, ha. And, of course, nobody's talking.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. No one knows where her purse went. Absolutely no one knew where her purse went. But the thing I think about is this. Did she go to this bar by herself? Because if you have friends, you got to assume your friends would have had your back and at least watched over your purse.
Hey, if you and I went to a bar and you were videoing with Google Glass, I wouldn't have your back.
That's true. That's fair. Fair enough.
I'd say go ahead, kick the shit out of them. I don't care.
This woman is supposedly a social media consultant, and she says on her Facebook page that she never expected such hate and venom. Really?
Really?
Have you not seen the glass hole story, sweetheart?
Is this her first month as being a social media consultant?
Could be. Or a tech journalist or a tech writer or whatever the hell she happens to be. This story just kills me.
Wow.
That she is so immune to her environment that she would think that it would be okay to videotape people in a bar. And in particular, when they specifically say, don't do this. Now, if it's me and I want to be an asshole and someone says, don't do this, I can, if I want to be a jerk, say, okay, make me. But if you're a little white girl from the suburbs and someone says turn it off, you turn it off.
Yeah.
You don't be exactly what she's accused of being, a glass hole.
That's
and
right.
This is not the first time we're going to hear this story.
No.
This is going to happen over and over and over again. It's just hilarious. It's my most fun story of the day that I've been following. It just cracks me up.
And that's going to keep going, and people are going to keep videoing, and people are going to get beat up.
Yeah, hopefully it'll never be anything more than this, which seems to be a bit of hockey pushy shovey kind of thing. It's nothing really serious.
It'll be more than that if I'm in some place and somebody's videoing me.
I agree. I know. We said that before on the show. Both of us had said we will politely walk up to you and ask you to turn that off. I will politely ask you 3 times. If I have to ask you a 4th time, things are going to get ugly. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. It will, at the very least, I will knock those glasses off your face. I have no problem with being arrested for assault. It's happened before. It'll happen again.
Yep.
I can pay the fine. All right? I'll do the time for doing the crime. Not a problem. All this past weekend, we heard the story of the SSL bug failure, embarrassment on Apple's part. They fixed it in the iOS devices fairly quickly. It took them 4 or 5 days to fix it under Mac OS Mavericks, and apparently it was because they had an update already ready and they wanted to roll this new one in with it. What are your thoughts on this? First of all, there is some stories, and I'm sorry to see Gruber lightly fanning the flames of this, that this may have been either known or exploited by the NSA. I don't believe that for a second. It seems like this was simply just a poor cut and paste job. I don't want to put a tinfoil hat on and say this is a known exploit by the American government to take advantage of this. Do you agree with that?
I would see. I tend to, maybe I'm too trusting or something, but yeah, that's what I tend to think. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I think.
Who knows what? I mean, maybe they found it by mistake and said, "Holy crap! Look."
No.
Well,
I think
our double secret operative inside Apple actually did it for us.
I think what it is that this is such a simplistic exploit. This is not an all-seeing worm. This was a simple little piece of code that was copied twice. So I think if the NSA were putting in code, it'd be a little more complicated than this. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I do. But why do you need complicated when all you need is an exploit? I don't know what happened, and I'm no coding genius, and I'm not a very good conspiracy theorist either. I tend to go for the simplest explanation, and
Yeah, as Shadow says in the RC chat room, the need to attribute cosmic significance to a syntax error is why most of the tech press should just go away. And I agree. I absolutely agree with them. I think this is just a simple cut and paste. That being said, it was a serious exploit. This was something that would definitely. Oftentimes you hear about these kinds of things and you think, no big deal. I'll wait until Apple fixes it. But this is the kind of thing that I made sure I patched my iOS device immediately, and started using a separate browser, and made sure that my Wi-Fi network was locked down.
Yeah, well,
because this was a serious issue.
I did all that stuff too. I made sure, but I usually make sure that I'm up to date with these updates anyway, because you know that they're patching stuff, they're doing things. So yeah, I always make sure I'm up to date.
I never, I did, but for the most part, I don't stress out about them, about these kind of exploits, because most of the time they're either A, not in the wild, or B, so obscure that I don't worry about them. The ones about 6 months ago when people were getting caught down because they were downloading software from various illegal websites and getting caught with a virus. Yeah, don't care. That's never going to happen to me, so I'm not worried about it.
Exactly. I could care less. But I think if you talk to any developer, and I'm not talking specifically about this SSL bug, but you talk to any developer, and they'll say, yeah, bugs creep in. You know, it happens. This one seemed to be, right out there, but it happens. It's going to continue to happen. What I find interesting is that Apple fixes these bugs within days. Geez, Windows bugs are there for a year or more.
Yeah.
And they have to, what do they have, like Update Tuesdays or something, where they're fixing all these security bugs?
As Gruber said on Daring Fireball, he said real investigation takes time and needs to go by the book. Now he's talking about something else, but it's true. As Apple says, they don't talk about these things until until they know why it happened and there's a solution that they can give to people.
Right.
I don't agree with that, but I understand why Apple does it.
I agree with that.
Well, I wish Apple would through their PR flacks through you. I'm not saying you're PR flack. I'm sorry for that.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I don't mean that I don't mean that juxtaposition there. I would like to have a PR flack call up Jim Dalrymple at the Loop and say, Jim, could you post this? Here's a quote. We know how serious this is, and rest assured, everyone at Apple is working as hard as we can on it. No big deal.
Okay. So if a flaw was discovered in the power grid in the U.S., would you like the U.S. government to come on and say, "Oh shit, we just found this flaw in our power grid, and it could be shut down at any time. We just wanted to let you know we're working on a fix, just in case."
There's a difference.
No.
There's a difference between causing panic in one user and causing panic in the whole frickin' country.
No, you don't do that. I understand why Apple does it. I mean, they don't want the exploit out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they have it fixed, and they say, okay, this is what was going on. It's fixed. Here's the update. No worries.
Yeah.
That's the right way to do it.
Now, I asked you this on iMessage, and you studiously ignored me. Hometown hero Tim Cook profiled in his local paper. And it was a nice little puff piece about Tim Cook and the little upbringing he had in rural Alabama, the suburbs of Alabama. It was cute. The problem I have with the piece is I believe we should have a moratorium, possibly even a constitutional amendment, banning high school yearbook photos older than 10 years. Because none of us look good, okay?
I look awesome.
Yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't. I've seen you 10 years ago, and I can't imagine that you could possibly look better than you do, because you're a handsome-looking man right now.
That's true.
Yeah, see? You see how I spun that on you? You weren't expecting that, were you?
I wasn't.
The Tim Cook high school yearbook photo that the blog in Alabama posted, oh my God, that poor man. That photo is out there 30, 35 years later. That's just cruel. There was no need to post that.
Well,
A cruel, cruel joke to play on poor Tim. Would you want your high school pictures put on a blog somewhere?
Well, I think we're different, though, because I don't really care much.
Yeah. But
so,
are they kind of embarrassing? Do you think in any way, shape, or form this is kind of embarrassing, or is this just as funny? This is just hilarious.
Oh, no, it's just funny. I mean,
it's just funny.
It is a funny pic, but
it's hilarious. He's almost got a Jew-fro. I mean,
I know.
He's got a big old mess of hair up there.
Yeah, you gotta wonder where that came from or where it went.
We are going to leave you now. We're going to ask one last question of you. Do you drink whiskey?
Not much.
Are you you're not a fan of what kind of? I know you're I don't want to say beer fan. I'll say you're a Heineken fan. But do you ever drink hard booze?
Not anymore.
Yeah. Is there a reason you just don't like it, or?
I get angry.
Wait a minute. Angrier or angry?
Yes, I get angrier.
Angrier. All right, I understand. So what you're
Yeah,
saying is you're an ugly drunk on hard
y-
booze?
on hard brews. Yeah,
That's funny. I didn't realize that. Okay,
yeah.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever see you slamming back Bushmills.
You years ago went to Arizona on a Macworld retreat, and Stan Flack was there at that time.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of ugly drunks,
we were going out to play paintball.
okay.
So before we went, Stan took like 6 shots of tequila.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, yeah. So I took like 7 shots of Jack Daniels. So by the time we got there, it was only like a 15-minute drive. By the time we got there, everybody else was, oh, happy, cheery, we're going to play paintball.
Yeah.
Stan didn't pick me for his team. So I had a big old hate on. So I was standing up against one of the inside. It was like an old Western town.
Yeah.
I was standing up inside, and I saw Stan coming. Stan said he was, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to do all this. So I saw him coming. So he went right by the window. I put my gun right up against his hand and pulled the trigger.
And those things hurt, too.
They hurt from a ways away.
Oh, yeah.
I shot him point blank, and he was bleeding and shit. And I took off running, laughing. Said, "Hey, you can't shoot me, man. You're out. You're dead."
That's right. That's the only thing fun about paintball is being able to nail someone with one of those things, and they sting.
Great. Oh yeah,
man, they hurt.
Yeah,
folks, we're talking to Jim Dalrymple on the Loop at loopinsight.com. Did you do an Amplify yesterday?
No.
How come?
Because I went to rescue a dog.
Consistency is important in the podcasting business, Jim. I've been doing this for 20 years, and let me tell you, as a veteran to a rookie like yourself, you've got to be consistent.
Went to rescue a dog.
Pretty dog, too.
Yes.
Great picture. Good for you for rescuing the dog. Folks, loopinsight.com is the website. Jim Dalrymple, publisher of... Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it. The Loop magazine, you did a special remembrance of Steve Jobs.
Yes.
For those folks who haven't seen it, go to the iTunes Store or the Loop website. There's a link on the Loop website to the Loop magazine. And what is it? I think it's 5, 6 stories of people's remembrances of Steve Jobs.
I think there's 9.
Is there 9? Okay, I've only got
9.
through 4 of them, so I wasn't sure how many were. But check them out. Some really good stories from a lot who let you know about the reminiscing of Steve Jobs. It was Jobs' birthday on, I think, Monday.
Monday, yeah.
That's it, folks. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
Talk next week. See ya.
Bye.
We are going to take a short break. We are going to talk to Mikael Mossberg. I keep wanting to get to Mikael's name wrong. Mikael Mossberg is the proprietor, the co-founder of a website called drinkdistiller.com. And they come up with this really cool app called Distiller. You can go to the website, go to the iTunes Store and do a search for Distiller. Or go to the website, drinkdistiller.com. And it's kind of neat because it gives you not only information about whiskey, but help and assistance and recommendations and a profile. And it's really kind of neat. I really enjoy the website. You can get recommendations. You can search for particular kinds of whiskey. So we'll talk to Mikael Mossberg of the Distiller app right after this message. This is your Mac Life. Hey folks, this is Sean King from Your Mac Life. On the phone now with Mikael Mossberg, the co-founder of Distiller, the website drinkdistiller.com. Mikael, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you very much for joining me. We've been trying to arrange this interview for a while. Ever since I first saw your app. Now, folks who listen to the show in the past know that a few months ago, I interviewed the folks at Wine Spectator magazine about their new wine app. And now that the folks at drinkdistiller.com have come up with a whiskey app, I'm even more excited to talk to you, Mikael.
That's great. Thanks.
While I like wine, I really love whiskey, and it's not just a matter of drinking until I drop kind of thing. I like sipping and tasting and the flavors of whiskey that seem to be so varied and so accessible, unlike beer and even unlike wine. Mikael, give us a little primer, first of all, on what whiskey is. How is it different from, say, rum or vodka?
Right. Well, whiskey, it's funny, actually. One of our tasting experts very early on said, it's insane to think about how whiskey is made, because if you're a beer fan, you're basically ruining beer. You're boiling beer to make whiskey. And so, people who are huge beer fans are like, oh my God, this sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty interesting spirit with this crazy history behind it, and countries all over the world have the very deep kind of roots with whiskey and are very, very protective of the way that they make whiskey, and so it's very interesting in that way that it's the spirit that is kind of universally loved and kind of made in very different ways depending on where you're coming from and where you are on the globe. So
it is interestingly regional. For example, you can make a Chardonnay wine anywhere you can grow Chardonnay grapes, but you can only make Scotch in certain places. You can only make bourbon in certain places. Isn't that true?
Sure. Yeah, Scotch is first and foremost from Scotland. Yeah. So if it's not from Scotland, you'll hear there are single malts that are made in very similar ways all over the planet. The Japanese have some amazing single malts, and they actually went to Scotland to learn how to make them. Mm-hmm. There's single malts popping up all over the world. There's some great American single malts. There are Indian single malts. That's all fantastic. But if it's not from Scotland, you can't call it Scotch. So, and the same thing goes for bourbon. It has to be from the United States. Has to be made from the United States. Has to be aged in American oak, and so there's definitely there's rules and laws about what can legally be called and labeled as a bourbon or a Scotch, things like that. So
is there variety of whiskeys the same sort of way we have varieties of beer, in the sense that we have the Dreck of light Budweiser all the way up to cask strength beer? Does whiskey have that kind of flavor range too?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the flavor range is pretty immense. I mean, if you compare, say like a rye whiskey from the United States and put it against, maybe like an Islay Scotch, that has that kind of peatier taste to it, those two things are going to taste drastically different. And obviously the price ranges are just, everything from $10 all the way up to, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what you're getting. So, there's a very wide range, and I think that's part of the reason that we wanted to start Distiller is, a lot of people's experience with whiskey is kind of that lower kind of rung, just stuff that doesn't taste all that great. And, you talk to people that don't like whiskey, and you always, first question is, well, what have you tried?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah,
people who say they don't like beer after having just those light beers.
I've always told folks that, and correct me if I've been telling them wrong, I've always told folks that good whiskey shouldn't burn when it goes down your throat. It should feel very warm and very smooth. Is that kind of correct? Is that a good way of describing a good whiskey?
I think, the burn a lot of the time can come from the alcohol content. Just like you mentioned, cask strength beers, there are, some insanely high-proof whiskeys out there as well. Mm-hmm. So some of that is kind of unavoidable. But even with those really high-proof ones that are really, really good, there's ones like the George T. Stagg bourbon that's from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Mm-hmm. Depending on the year, the proof changes every year, but, it's hovers around like 146 proof.
Yikes.
And even that, which obviously is, like enough to make you go blind, basically, it tastes so fantastic. So it'll burn definitely, but the taste is not overwhelmed by the burn. And I think you'll find that with some of the kind of lower end ones that you're kind of talking about, is all you taste is burning, that like alcohol taste, and it's not that great. But you get up there into the higher crafted ones, and yeah, man, it's delicious, even if it does burn a little bit.
One of the
good burn.
One of the neat little interesting facts or trivia bits about whiskey is the difference between the E and the not E. Whiskey spelled with an E,
Yeah.
whiskey spelled with a Y. Folks think it's just a regional spelling thing, but there is actually a difference between whiskey with an E and whiskey without it. Can you explain that to the audience?
Yeah, so there is a regional difference in that, if you're an American and you're talking about whiskey in general, it tends to be that you use your E, and the same goes for Irish whiskey. But a good rule of thumb is if you're talking about something specific, if it's from Ireland or the United States, it's whiskey with an E.
Yeah.
If it's from pretty much anywhere else on the earth, it's whiskey without an E. And there are examples in the U.S. That don't use the whiskey with an E, like George Dickel and Maker's Mark, I think, doesn't use an E.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, yeah, that's the kind of good rule of thumb. And you'll find that some people, if you're talking about a Scotch and you spell it whiskey with an E, there'll definitely be some angry emails coming your way.
Are whiskey folks like wine folks? I mean, we've all heard the term wine snobs. Are there whiskey
Sure.
snobs?
Oh, definitely.
Really?
I think there's probably snobs in anything. Yeah, I think the interesting thing is with whiskey, it's going through this renaissance right now. Truly, just massive booming markets, craft distilleries popping up all over the place. Just hundreds everywhere, and they're all winning crazy awards. It's not just like, these kind of low-end places popping up. There's really, really good craft places coming up all over the world. So it is interesting because there is the kind of the old guard, which I think, the whiskey snobs lived in that world for a very long time, where whiskey wasn't this global phenomenon that it is kind of now. And, they can, just like wine snobs, there will be people that, want to point out, exactly how it's made and the differences, and you have to like smell it this way and you can't drink it this way. And, I think that's in large part one of the reasons we founded Distiller was, that kind of gut reaction to that possible elitism and that high barrier to entry. We thought, why does it have to be that way? And why is it why is all this knowledge only for people who are in that kind of upper echelon of whiskey knowledge? We wanted to democratize that and bring everybody into it because we think whiskey is delicious. So,
and that being said, let's move over to the app, folks. You can go to the website drinkdistiller.com. I'm talking to the co-founder of the app. The app is on the iTunes store. It's called Distiller. It's a free app, so just go ahead and download it. I love the way it's set up. Give the audience a sense of why you guys developed this app and how accessible it is.
Sure. Yeah, we developed it really because we were whiskey fans ourselves. We're craft beer fans and big whiskey fans, and we found that while we were trying to learn new things and find new things to try, it was really kind of difficult. There are a lot of blogs out there that tend to be run by people who have way more knowledge than your average whiskey user or whiskey drinker, and so their blogs are pretty difficult to understand, difficult to digest. And all the information that's out there on the Distiller websites, doesn't really work that well, especially on your phone. If you're at a store or at a bar and you want to learn something about what's in front of you, it's really difficult. It's like oddly difficult, and that's really kind of where the idea started. And we, my co-founder and I, Brent Stiefel, we were up in Seattle at this really fantastic whiskey bar called Cannon, and their whiskey menu is just off the charts insane. I mean, they've got stuff in there that you'll probably, you can only find in a handful of places in the world. It's super impressive. And we were kind of just chatting about this idea that how are you going to learn about any of this? I mean, these are just, you've got the name of the product, the year, and the price there, and how am I supposed to know what this tastes like, or if it's worth it, or whatever, and what other people think of it. And that's really where the discussion started. We wanted to make it easier for people like us, just fans, to learn in an easy way, in an unintimidating way, and a fun way,
The website drinkdistiller.com's also got some a great story of whiskey, the whiskey versus whiskey. That's a great debate. So it's not just an app; it's also a website. And the app is very reminiscent of the website, and vice versa. But I like the idea, you mentioned it briefly earlier, of using this on your iPhone. You're sitting in a bar, you're either with friends, you're by yourself watching the hockey game, whatever it might be, and you think, hey, I want to try something, and I'm in the mood for this. Now, what you guys have the app set up where you can say exactly that. I'm in a bar, I'm sitting in front of a fireplace, those kind of things. So you tell the app the situation you're in to help you, what I assume to be a novice, a neophyte, find a whiskey that you may not be familiar with. I love the description in the app of Jameson's, one of my favorite whiskeys to give to a new whiskey drinker. Straight Jameson's. Every bar in the world has got a bottle of Jameson's in the back, and you describe it as a gateway whiskey.
Yeah, I think we tried to have a little fun with it, and we've got all of our reviews and descriptions are kind of written from people within the industry that we've kind of brought on to our tasting table. It's kind of our iron chefs of whiskey. These people who who have made a living and dedicated their lives to kind of a similar pursuit. Where they're learning about it and then using that knowledge to help teach people. There are some really funny descriptions in there, like that one. And it's kind of true. A lot of people, when you talk to them and they say, "What's your favorite whiskey?" Jameson is a surprisingly common answer. Well, it is a great. If you like that one, there's lots to learn.
It seems to be the most accessible one, and one a bartender will most likely suggest to you if you say, "I don't know anything about whiskey." Usually, if you answer the top shelf whiskey in a lot of bars. The other thing I like about the app is that when you go to the Jameson section, and I'm a big fan of Jameson's. I've usually got a bottle around the house somewhere. But then when you scroll down to the bottom of the app, you've got the flavor profile of Jameson. So if you like Jameson's, you can find out what it is about Jameson's that you might like. For example, it says that it's sweet and vanilla-y, the two peaks in your flavor profile. But then you say you've got a bunch of suggestions. You may also like these other ones. Now, there's one I hadn't heard of, Kilbeggan. And so I can sort of increase my knowledge of whiskey and think to myself, okay, I like Jameson's. The next time I go to a bar, I'll ask if they have Kilbeggan, and I'll try that and see whether I like it. I like the learning aspect of the Distiller app as opposed to just, here, drink this kind of thing. You can learn more about what you like about the whiskeys.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. I mean, that's kind of been, it's a core tenet of what we are trying to do and what we're trying to build, and we want to make it easy and fun, and then, like we mentioned, that's really a simple way to just learn. You just see at the bottom of every page there are going to be 3 more that, just based on the flavor profile that are, of the page that you're looking at, of the bottle that you're looking at, you're going to find 3 new whiskeys. It's kind of like if you ever go on Wikipedia and you just get down that rabbit hole where you're like, click that link, now click that link, now click that link. We wanted to kind of have a thing like that where you can just keep reading, keep learning, it's super easy to find new things to try. And we definitely built it with that in mind.
That being the case, you could end up very drunk at the end of a night. A bartender, try this one. And you're just pointing at the phone now. You can't even say the word because it's Scottish.
Yeah, exactly. We obviously we want people to enjoy whiskey responsibly and not abuse it. But I think the cool thing about how we're approaching it and the information that we're putting out there is we're really trying to introduce people to things that they're not just using to get drunk on. You know what I mean? They're using to really kind of try new things to taste and find new things from all over the world to enjoy. So there definitely is a lot in there, though. That's for sure.
I don't know how much you know about the history of whiskey, but this is a question I've always been curious about. The old Wild West movies that we saw as kids from the 30s and 40s and 50s and those kinds of things. Guy walks into a bar, walks up to the bartender. His spurs are clanging. His gun is banging against his hip. He walks up and he says, "Whiskey." What would they be drinking?
Right.
What were people in the 18th century drinking in the Wild West?
That's a fantastic question. I'm not sure I'll be able to answer. I mean, the history of whiskey in the United States is pretty storied. I mean, we actually had a whiskey rebellion,
right.
which is pretty interesting. And basically, we had all these kind of bootleggers trying to make rye whiskey. America has had a huge history with rye whiskey. Rye grows really well in the north, kind of northeast. So, and I think George Washington actually was a big rye guy.
We're not talking about prohibition, folks. We're not talking about whiskey rebellion and prohibition, folks. We're talking 1791. You guys, America's been fighting over booze for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, actually, in that learn section that you referenced earlier on the website, and it's actually available in the app as well. The first line about bourbon is what America did to start with bourbon. They started with a drinking and a fighting. And it's very true. And I mean, America's history is pretty much tied to whiskey from the very beginning, whiskey and beer.
So it was probably rye that cowboys are drinking. That seems to be the most accessible, easiest one to make in the back of a bar in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it's probably all dependent upon what back then what grows well in your in your territory. I mean, rye really does well and did well in the Northeast. And one of the big reasons that kind of bourbon started to come together is, that they found that corn grew pretty well out in Kentucky, which was kind of the farther west at that point of the colonies. And so that's kind of where bourbon came from, because obviously the main grain there in bourbon is corn. So, could have been bourbon, could have been rye, could have been a mix of all of it. You get the impression with those Wild West guys that not so much about taste and enjoyment as the primary function is to get you good and drunk, right?
No kidding. I think a lot of folks
could have been brown moonshine.
I think a lot of folks don't realize that aspect of whiskey too, is that it's made from various kinds of grains, rye grain, corn, those kinds of things.
Barley, yeah.
Barley. Those are the kind of things that make up whiskey in different formulations. I think that's what I find fascinating about whiskey, is that there's so many different ways of not only creating the alcohol itself, but then you look at, I was very fortunate, I lived in Nashville, to go down to the Jack Daniel's distillery in
down in Lynchburg.
Great place, so much fun.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that the way, not only the way they actually made the whiskey, but the wood that they used to filter the whiskey.
Yeah.
The barrels they used were very important. And those barrels are then resold to bourbon manufacturers. And then those barrels are resold to Scotch manufacturers, because the barrels hold and impart color and flavor to the whiskey. I thought it was just absolutely fascinating. You don't hear about that when it comes to beer. It doesn't matter what kind of vat the beer is in, but it matters what the whiskey's being held in.
Yeah, it really does, and you see just kind of a lot of cross-pollination like that. I mean, there are large amounts of whiskey that are what are called sherried, and the reason they call them I'm sure you've heard of kind of some famous ones like the Macallan 12 is a really big one that people love. They age the whiskey in sherry casks. Yeah. So what these were used originally to age sherry, and so when they put the whiskey in it, it takes on that sweeter sherry flavor into the whiskey and kind of imparts that flavor into it. So you mentioned Jack Daniel's, and they have a very specific way that they treat their wood, and that's a very big part of it. In some places they switch barrels that they'll age partly in one barrel and then move it to another type of barrel, or combine from several types of barrels, or I mean, every combination you can imagine, there's probably somebody trying it.
You mentioned earlier in the interview about what's very similar to craft beer. There are craft whiskey makers now. I've had some from folks in Colorado, but it's hard to find. How specific is the app? In other words, if I ask the app, it says, where will you be enjoying it? So I say at a bar, and I'm mildly adventurous, and I want to pay $10. How likely am I to find that whiskey in a general purpose bar? Most bars don't carry a wide range of whiskeys, do they?
Right. Well, that's actually kind of something that we're working on right now for the app is to be able to kind of work with bars to display their specific inventory kind of within the app. So, you could actually say, I'm at this bar, and the bar will have already put in, the menu, kind of similar to how like menu pages might, or something like that. Something that we're digging into, because, you touch on a really important point, which is there are a lot of great things out there that you just may never even see in a store or a bar. And that's a big challenge definitely for us and for users to make sure that we're offering information that's relevant. You obviously don't want to get recommended something that you have no chance of ever finding. So
yeah, because then you feel like you're wasting your time with the app if I have to go through 4 or 5 or 6 different recommendations, and the bar doesn't have any of those. So yeah, that would be really nice to be able to have a list of the craft distilleries in the Pacific Northwest where I am, or in the Northeast or South, that kind of thing. So you can sort of narrow it down and know that, okay, that whiskey is going to be in my general area.
Right, definitely. What's great to see, though, is that a lot of these craft distilleries are starting to really secure great, distribution. I mean, High West comes to mind out of Park City, Utah. They make some fantastic stuff, and you're starting to see it really popping up all over the place these days. I think they actually may even be doing something with Costco.
Yeah. Wow.
So, there are definitely big ones out there that you're starting to see, in more and more places, like, Breckenridge and Templeton and ones out of Texas. So, definitely that's something that we're going to, continue to improve on. The app is growing. The app and the site are just growing every single day, both on the full whiskey database side, and then on the development side, we're constantly rolling out improvements and new features and things like that. So we're not stopping.
And that's good. Like I said at the beginning, I love introducing friends and new drinkers to whiskey, because it can be a nice change from beer. And as we get older, we think that beer is bloating. We don't want to drink a 6-pack of beer. We just want to have a nice shot of whiskey. Well, I'm Canadian. A 6-pack is what we have for lunch. So
right.
But if you were going to recommend a general purpose whiskey for those folks who are listening to the show right now and thinking, okay, I want to try a whiskey, what would you recommend to someone off the top of your head if we were just sitting in an average everyday bar?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
I've got 3. I've got 3. Let's see if your 3 match up with mine.
You've got 3.
I got 3.
Well, one that obviously a lot of people are starting to gravitate towards now. A lot of people for a long time that are getting into bourbons were really big fans of Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
And Maker's Mark you can find most places. Yep. And one thing that we're starting to see more and more of these days is Bullet. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bullet. But
no.
Bullet is starting to pop up a lot more places. It's got a kind of a pretty nondescript bottle, big orange kind of band across it for the bourbon, and they also have a rye. But that's starting to pop up in a lot of bars, and that's a really kind of nice intro bourbon that is going to be easy to find for a lot of people. Scotch-wise, a lot of people try the Glenlivet or the Glenfiddich when they're first starting.
You pretty much can't go wrong with those two, the Glenlivet or Glenfiddich, can you?
Sure. I mean, yeah, they're definitely, they're some of the most popular whiskeys on the planet. They're everywhere. Yeah. And so if you're looking for something to try that you haven't, if you haven't had that much experience with Scotch before, those are definitely some good ones to try out of the gate. And there are a lot that are starting to pop up, that are pretty fantastic too. Like the Glenmorangie is starting to show up in a lot of bars,
Yep.
and that's a fantastic Scotch. And there are people who, I'm not sure if you've ever tried a real peaty Scotch, but there's brands like Lafroig that you'll see in a lot of places as well. It's a pretty standard green bottle, white label across the front, and that's a really cool peaty one. That if you haven't tried peat before, it's definitely one to give you a good feel for what that tastes like. I mean, it's really hard to say because there's so much out there, and I, being a huge fan, kind of more than I'm just attached to Distiller, just as a whiskey fan, when I talk to friends, I kind of want to say, like, now try this one, and try this one, and try this one, and try this one. You know what I mean? It's I get excited about it, and I have to kind of edit myself and not go overboard by just listing, a million whiskeys.
I always pick 3. I always tell a friend, if you want to learn something about whiskey, we're going to have 3 drinks together. And the three are, I always like picking Knob Creek because it's a bourbon.
Oh yeah.
And I start off with something a little sharper for folks. And then if they're either wanting a Scotch or a whiskey or an Irish whiskey, if it's Irish whiskey for a beginner, I love Redbreast. For a beginner,
oh, I love Redbreast.
Nice smoothness to it. I don't want a beginner to get hurt drinking their first Irish whiskey,
Sure.
And then
Redbreast is great.
Then I always try to surprise them at the end, and with a little more expensive one called Oban. And it's not it's not in the usual Scotch names. A lot of folks don't recognize that it's a Scotch.
Sure.
It's a little more high end. It's not very high end. I'm not rich, but those are the 3 I always line up at a bar for friends. Start off with a Knob Creek, a nice bourbon, then Redbreast and Irish whiskey, and then go with a little higher end Oban. Those are the fun 3 I always recommend to folks.
Yeah, they're just spanning all the different types there. Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. I think as a whiskey. I think that's what I try to encourage folks is to experiment and the Distiller app helps you do that. If you know one that you like, the way you guys have got the Distiller app set up is that I can find the one I like and then sort of branch out gently. You've got at the bottom of the app, it says more spicy or more smoky or more that way. And so you think to yourself, okay, I think a little bit more spice. So you'll tap on that one and learn that there's this whiskey you've never heard of that is a little bit more spicy than the one you just had previously. I love that exploration of the app. I think it's really fun and a really great way for folks to learn more about whiskey.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, we approached it we had a lot of discussions early on about how we were were we gonna keep people within kind of the Scotch world if they just said they were looking for Scotch, and we thought, there's so many things that people don't try because it's maybe outside a bit of their comfort zone, and so we try to compare the taste profiles across all the different genres and not just stick people within what they know they already like. So you'll find on a lot of the pages, you mentioned Oban. If you look at the Oban 14. You'll see at the bottom, you'll see a Highland Park 15 and 12, which are both Scotches, but then you'll also see the Amrit Fusion single malt whiskey from India. So made in a very similar way to a single malt Scotch, but from a totally different part of the world. And we think that's a really fun way to approach learning about whiskey, is not just saying, I want to find Scotch to drink. But saying, like, these are the tastes I think I like, and letting yourself kind of try those new things, and it's a big part of what we're doing. And
especially because I don't want someone, like I said before, to get hurt drinking the whiskey. I wouldn't give someone a as their free. Here's some cask strength Scotch. Try this. Let their head explode.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never come back to it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's no way they won't even talk to you ever again. So it's sort of easing you gently into it. But then again, folks, if you're a little bit more knowledgeable about whiskey and you kind of know what you like, but still want to, as Mikael said, step out of your comfort zone a little bit, the app can help there too. I think it looks like a great app for everyone from a complete neophyte to whiskey expert.
Yeah, we tried to really make it something that people from all over kind of the whiskey world and people with all different levels of experience would be able to enjoy. So, I think it certainly offers more to people who are newer to learning about whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's, if you have a wider range of experience, a lot of these things you kind of, you've already tried it. But we definitely made a very conscious effort to try to appeal and make this useful to people, like you said, from all different, experience levels. So
I think the highest compliment you can get about the app was that I read a comment on your website that said someone said, "Damn, now I have to go buy an iPhone."
Yeah, we've gotten some things like that. I think one person wrote in and said, "Is this real life?" Referencing that kind of famous video of the kid coming out of I think it was oral surgery. Going, "Is this real life?" He said, "I can't believe this exists. I'm so happy." That definitely made my day. We've seen a couple like that. We've seen some people say like, "Damn, now why didn't I think of this?" Now here I go to the liquor store. So, it's been definitely really exciting, and it's one of those things that there's such goodwill, I think, in the community and from people. It's whiskey makes people happy, and it's one of those things that people are really willing to try to learn and try to experience new things in the whiskey world. So,
and the other thing I like, Mikael, about whiskey is you're just cool when you drink whiskey. You're not cool when you drink a beer. You're not cool when you're drinking something with an umbrella in it. But you are damn cool when you're drinking a whiskey, man. It's just impressive to drink a whiskey.
Cool glass,
Exactly.
Kind of like cool, like heavy glass. Yeah, you look classy when you're drinking a whiskey, definitely.
You're not gonna carry around one of those stupid wine glasses, long and skinny, that tip over all the time.
Right. Easy to break.
Exactly. They tip over and smash 1,000 pieces. You got a heavy ass bottom. The whiskey glass, maybe a piece of ice, There's the question: ice or no ice in whiskey? What's your pseudo-expert opinion on that?
Yeah, it's funny. There's so many people out there that have a very definite answer about.
Oh yeah, this is the Mac versus PC argument in the whiskey world. This is the Ford versus Chevy argument in the whiskey world, isn't it?
Right, yeah. I mean, it really is one of those things that some people say, like, "Oh my God, how could you do that?" To us, first and foremost, whiskey enjoyment is totally subjective, and you should be comfortable, and you should not be made to feel bad that if you enjoy whiskey with ice, that's the wrong way to do it. That's absolutely absurd. If you like whiskey with ice, put ice in your whiskey.
Yeah.
So in terms of tasting flavors and really kind of unlocking everything that all the different flavors and smells in a whiskey, sometimes people will put just a little bit of water, just a tiny bit of water in the whiskey, and I'll open it up. But if there's a particular way that you enjoy it, I think we are all about not trying to kind of talk down to anybody and don't let anybody tell you that you're getting it the wrong way. I've heard people say, like, "How dare you get ice in your bourbon? Bourbon's got to be neat." Sure, bourbon is great neat, absolutely. But if you enjoy bourbon with some ice in it, then it's that's what you like. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
We see them all over the place. These whiskey stones and these round ice cubes. Does any of that stuff matter?
Yeah.
Does it really make a difference?
I actually have some whiskey stones at home. What it'll do is it doesn't definitely cool it down as much as ice might. The reason people like whiskey stones is that while it doesn't cool it down as much as ice might, it keeps you cool without the ice melting and diluting the whiskey. So if you want to kind of keep the taste consistent and not get watered down, if you're enjoying it over a long period of time, that's kind of the upside to those. So I think if you're someone who likes ice in your whiskey and you feel like you're pressured to drink it quickly or too quickly because it's gonna the ice is gonna melt and kind of ruin the whiskey, then I would say give them a shot. Just going back to my previous answer, if it's something that you enjoy, then definitely do it. Whiskey it's something that should be enjoyed, and you should feel relaxed and happy when you're drinking it, and not like feel that you're doing the wrong thing or being judged or anything.
I always tell folks that your first sip, a very, very tiny sip, if you're a new whiskey drinker, your first tiny little sip should be neat. Don't have the bartender, don't pour any ice into it. But have ice on the side. Put ice on the side, and usually small ice cubes if you can get them, and then just drop one in after you have that first sip, if you find that first sip to be too strong, and see how the flavor will change. And then experiment.
Yeah.
See, maybe you only like half an ice cube, or maybe you like a little bit of water. That's the fun thing I love about whiskey is I can experiment. The cask strength stuff, I'll just pour a bunch of water in that stuff because I ain't that strong, man. I can't drink that stuff. But I can drink Jameson's all night long, neat. But there's other stuff that you might want to put a little bit of water in just to smooth it out a little bit. But experiment with it. You can't experiment with beer that way. You can't experiment with wine that way. So whiskey is a lot more fun to play around with when it comes to the flavor profile of what you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that's totally a great suggestion is, a lot of places if you order a whiskey, just like a normal bar, it's not necessarily like a high-end whiskey bar. They'll give it to you with a glass that's just packed with ice, you ordered like you ordered a Pepsi or something. Mm-hmm. And, that definitely can, that makes it tough just to taste the whiskey itself because it's so overwhelmed by the ice. So certainly that's definitely a way you could try it. And it's funny, like you said, there's so much experimentation going on. There's even people, in kind of forums online that are experimenting with doing their own blends. They'll say like, I bought these 3 bottles and I put this much into this and this much into this, and it's really interesting to see because, like you said, you can't really do that with other, alcohol types as much. So it definitely lends itself to being enjoyed however you particularly care for it.
Yeah, there's a whole discussion there, folks, of blended versus non-blended and single malt versus triple malt and all that kind of stuff. We don't have time to get into it today, but go to the website, drinkdistiller.com, and they've got a bunch of great articles on their website about how this stuff is made and what the differences is, and you can learn from them. And then when you go to the bar, and I encourage everyone, download the app. It's a free app. Download it now. When you leave work today, go down to your local bar and order a whiskey. It doesn't matter what kind. Use the app to find it before you order that first beer, before you order that first frickin' Budweiser. Get a whiskey. Just have a shot of whiskey. Again, you'll look cooler. Everyone will be impressed, and especially if you can order it by name. If you can walk up to the bartender and go, Jameson's 12, that's cool, man. That's so much cooler than saying Miller Lite.
Hear, hear.
Tell us, as I said earlier, the app is free. How are you guys making money off this stuff?
Yeah, well, that's actually a good question and something that comes up a lot. Right now, we are not making money on it. We are building up. It's kind of we've got some investment, and we are building up to make the product worthwhile before we attempt to monetize it.
Okay.
We have isolated kind of a handful of ways that we're going to attempt to do that. But in our opinion, the first thing that we had to do, the first hurdle we had to get over, was making sure this thing was actually worthwhile to people, and making sure that it really added value, and not just build, a whiskey store.
Mm-hmm.
Because to us, there are a lot of those, and there are a lot of great ones, and they don't necessarily help you learn about, new things to try and where things come from and how they're made and what they taste like. And so to us, that was the first hurdle. It was get people in the door, get them comfortable, really make something of value and continue to add on that and have word of mouth grow. And once we have that, then, we can begin to monetize. So one thing that we are going to start focusing on, this year is putting just the ability for people to purchase within the app. So you find something and you say like, well, I don't know if I'll be able to find this, or I don't know if I really want to go hunting for this, but I'll purchase it now, and it can it can show up to me when it does. So we are working on that right now, working on kind of building that out and having some introductory talks with some retailers about fulfillment and everything like that. So that's a huge challenge in and of itself, because all the different liquor laws out there and
absolutely,
taxes and where you can and cannot ship to. And
I don't envy you that task. That is a giant hairball.
It really is quite an undertaking, but it's something that we're excited about doing because we have found that we've done some beta testing and surfaced some bylaws to people just to see if they were interested in clicking them, and a surprising amount of people really seem to be interested in that. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on this year. And there are ways that and a lot of people ask, are you working with brands on this? Like, is this just a fancy front for for Diageo or whoever to kind of be putting their products in there? And one thing that we're kind of adamant about and have been from the beginning is that our reviews and the descriptions and the ratings that we put in there are 100% in-house, not influenced by any outside forces. So that's definitely important, and that's something that we want people to be very aware of, is that, those ratings are done by, people in-house, and we're not being, paid to kind of rate things favorably or unfavorably. So, we do want to work with brands with that said, and, there are all sorts of brands that are coming out with great new products all the time that, they want to put those things in front of people, and maybe you want to be invited to a private tasting to try something from a distillery that you like, or there would be use to you in having a special page for a brand new product that came out that wasn't kind of the same that you're seeing now, which is like the product detail page where there's a rating and all that, but possibly a special page for you to look at what's new from that brand. And so I think there are many ways that we are looking at monetization, and if you're looking at the growth in the in the marketplace, there's no shortage of the industry is certainly booming. So we are it's definitely something that we're going to be working on in the early parts of this year, but we're doing very well so far, and very encouraged by the amount of people we've got coming in and checking it out. So.
Well, that's good to hear, because
we're not feeling nervous.
That's good to hear, because right now I think there's a lot of value in the app for everyone from a beginner to a dabbler like myself. So, folks, if you are interested in whiskey and trying whiskey or learning whiskey, or you like whiskey and want to learn more about it, I definitely encourage you to go to the website. drinkdistiller.com is the website. Distiller is the app. It's available on the iTunes store. Like I said, it is absolutely free. Check it out. I encourage you to poke around on the app. It's very pokeable, and it's a lot of fun to experiment and read up on all these kinds of things. I want to say thanks very much to Mikael Mossberg, the co-founder of the Distiller app. Again, drinkdistiller.com is the website. Mikael, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it too.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview with Mikael Mossberg from Distiller. drinkdistiller.com is the website. To try the app out, like I said in the interview, give whiskey a shot. Even if now if you've had a bunch and don't like it, don't. But if you're curious about it, the app can really help you discover stuff. And I'm a big fan of discovery. We are going to give away some money. But first of all, I want to say thanks to 16 wonderful companies who have signed on to give you, yes, you, prizes on March 19th. Thanks very much to the nice folks at Pad and Quill, Boinks Software, Take Control Books, Tom Bin, Glovely, Smile Software, MacFun, Scotty Vest, Danny P, Pixelmator, Topaz Labs, Primo Vista, Fuse Designs, Connects, Nifty Drives, and Backblaze. All those guys and more are giving away stuff on the March 19th show. So remember, if you're not a subscriber, on March 1st, you'll have to fill out the entry form at the top of the yourmaclifeshow.com page. But because of the nice, only way to describe it, the nice Secret Santa. I keep wanting to say his name. The nice Secret Santa that YML has. He wants us to give away stuff even before the March 19th show. So he's given me $200, gave away $50 last week. We'll give away $50 on tonight's show and $50 on every show up till the March 19th version of it. If you are a subscriber, do not worry about it. If you subscribe at $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever it might be, you are already entered into all of our prize draws. We do that automatically for you. So a one-time subscription to Your Mac Life, which I greatly appreciate and would like to see more of, and that gets you the automatic entry form into the show's drawings and prizes. So do that if you so choose on the left-hand side of the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. So speaking of which, I'm grabbing the subscription. There we go. There is the folder. 1,580 names are in here. So I'm going to start scrolling through this list, and someone in the RC chat room will say stop, and I will stop after I'm finished scrolling. Come on, someone say stop. Someone say stop. Les just joined us. He's late. Les, you're late. Les is in the IRC chat room. Still waiting for anyone to say stop. Can you guys hear me? Has my audio gone out? Because no one seems to be bothering to say stop for me. Les and Patty are talking amongst themselves. Ladies? Anybody? There we go. Finally, Les, the last person in the room, is the one who said stop. Now I gotta wait for this thing to scroll through. It's like a slot machine over here. And we have a winner. The winner's name is Frank Miller. Oh. Can't be that Frank Miller. No, it can't be the Frank Miller I'm thinking of. If you are that Frank Miller, let me know. Please, Frank, let me know. Frank doesn't say where he's from, but it doesn't matter, Frank. I'll send you an email, and you will tell me how you wish to receive your money via PayPal or some other method of payment. I'm happy to do it any way I possibly can that doesn't cost me money. So congratulations to Frank Miller. That can't be the cartoonist guy, can it? No, can't be. Just can't be. Let me see. I got a couple emails during the show from Bob Studer. Bob says, talked about being distracted driving. What about GPS or smartphones running a GPS app? Even those, Bob, again, as a motorcyclist, I'm not a big fan of. Quite honestly, one of the reasons why I had my accident was because I was looking down at my GPS. GPSs can be as distracting. I wish, and I'm surprised, I think Garmin just came up with something similar to this, but I'm surprised it's taken so long for manufacturers to have a true heads-up display of GPS. Now, I don't mean the inside of your windscreen is covered in maps, but at least a little indicator. Because one of the problems with GPSs, ones that are built into a car, is as you're driving, you have to turn and look down at the GPS. For example, my GPS in a car is always at as much of eye level as I can get, so it's just a quick head turn. On a motorcycle, I'll try to get it mounted on the handlebars, so it's a very minor dip. I didn't have that set up on my previous motorcycle, and it was one of the reasons, not the primary reason, one of the reasons why I had the accident. So yeah, I'm not a fan of GPSs, although they're not as bad as apps that have you reading, have you talking on the phone, responding to text messages. Not a fan of those. Bob Studer also says about the SSL bug, more to the point, why didn't Apple's QA testing find it? If you test for success, you should also test for correct failure. Well, from what I've heard, this is such a minor issue that no one expected it to be a problem. They do test for big bugs or big issues. No one expected this to happen. We'll all say it shouldn't have happened. And I'd love to hear from Apple. We won't, but I'd love to hear from Apple. Hey, it's because someone did a cut and paste. We just didn't catch it. We're sorry. There's bugs in every piece of software. It's just the nature of the millions of lines of code that our present-day machines and applications run on. There's always going to be bugs. What you hope is that they get found before the bad guys find them, and they get fixed quickly. Is 4 days quick enough for Apple? I don't know. I'd say yes. I'd say that if Apple had come out, and I know Jim Dalrymple disagrees with me, and said, hey, we know this is a problem. We're working through the weekend to get this thing fixed. It might have caused less of an issue. And then Apple said, here's how to protect yourself in the meantime. But they didn't wait weeks. This didn't go on for a month or something like that. So I'm more than happy to cut Apple a lot of slack with regards to that. Bob Suter, thanks very much for the emails. Always appreciate it. Gary Vaughn, he sent me a tweet. Gary listens to the archive. I think Gary's in Southeast Asia. I think he's in Thailand or the Philippines. I know he listens to the archive. I mentioned last week, I knew this, but I couldn't get it out of my small caveman brain. I mentioned a Thai slalom skier. Not very good. Came last in the event at the Olympics, but was trying. She is a half Brit, half Thai, amazing violinist called Vanessa May, M-A-E. Go to youtube.com and do a search for Vanessa May and watch some of her violin videos. Just spectacular violin videos. Special thanks to Matthew Duffy, a new subscriber to Your Mac Life, and Mark Schott, also a new subscriber to Your Mac Life. But a big shout out to, where did he go? I've lost his email. Oh, hang on. Oh, there it is. Hamang Shah. Hamang, you know why I'm saying thank you. I really appreciate it. So, Hamang Shah, thank you very much for the sizable donation to Your Mac Life. I really appreciate it. So today is the 26th, which means three more shows? Yeah, 3 more shows before we do the 20th anniversary of Mac Podcasting and the Origin Show. One of the questions we were asking on the pre-show, and maybe someone who's listening to the archive or listening to the live show right now, do you remember the name of the original show I did? I honestly don't remember. This show is called Your Mac Life. The previous show here in Vancouver was called The Mac Show. What was the previous to that show called? I want to say it was Apple Talk. But Sly thinks it might have been Mac Chat. Does anyone remember? You remember the very first? I know no one remembers the very, very first one. By the way, thanks to MacMan for sending the copy of the very first Your Mac Live show. I don't know if I'm going to play or post that on the website. It's pretty bad. You guys know I screwed the audio up now. It was pretty screwed up then. Although it did remind, Sly was co-hosting. It did remind me, it was our first show back from that 2001 Macworld Expo. That was the Macworld Expo where Apple came up with the gooseneck iMac. They got rid of the jelly bean shaped iMac and they had come up with the gooseneck one. So I listened to that show. It was okay. It was okay. I still might post at least a little bit of it so you guys can hear Sly and I. I think that's it, folks. Let's see if there's anything else I got here. There's my mailbox. Yeah, Michael Curtis in the UK says, looking forward to the 19th of March show. Please release show 1 as a podcast for giggles. I'm sure it's an interesting listen. Have a great weekend. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not sure. Gary Apter says, I'm a slow reader, mostly due to working 12-hour days driving truck, making sitting reading difficult. However, I made some time and I'm enjoying the book on understanding exposure. Good, Gary. I'm glad to hear that. A new question for you. Do you know how I can make a watermark for images I share? I tried on path with poor results. Likely it's me, but perhaps you have a simple path to accomplish this, an ego thing. One of the things that you have to be worried about, Gary, is no matter what you do, a committed thief will get your image, watermark or no. No matter where you put the watermark, no matter how big the watermark is, if it's a good enough image, the bad guys will get it. So what I tend to tell people is before you start looking for watermarks, I would put stuff on a website at a very, very low resolution. Either a fairly small file size or something that just isn't worth the bother for someone to grab and then try to resell or print or things like that. That being said, Photoshop does a great job of watermarking. So does Lightroom. I don't know if Aperture does, but I can assume it does. I'm sure Pixelmator does. Acorn does. Graphic Converter does. All those apps will do it. There are also some other apps out there, as you described. Path will do it. I think Path is an iOS app. If you're talking about iOS apps, that's different from doing it on the Mac. Let me know, Gary, which one you're doing it with. David Klumpkin in Shakopee, Minnesota says anniversary dates. Would have had this in sooner, but Comcast has me up and down. February 14th, 16th anniversary, and Valentine's Day. I think that means it's his 16th anniversary. Well, congratulations to you and Mrs. Klumpkin, David. Les Posen, hey, last week I tuned in using my iPhone, logged into the live feed over Bluetooth, my Mazda 6. Listened to you and Jim, very entertaining. Expected to come back 20 minutes later to hear the next live segment, but no. The iPhone picked up where the Jim conversation had left off. When I switched off the car, and I heard the remainder of the interview in its entirety. Now that's some buffering. Interesting. Is that a case of the iPhone less, or is it the case of the Mazda 6? I've never used that kind of feature in a car, so I don't know. Cinereds, I need to replace my MacBook Pro. Has anyone had any experience with Apple refurbished products about which they would care to comment? This comes up every now and then. I have no problem with refurb products. I bought refurb products. I bought I think 2 MacBooks ago, MacBook Pros ago, was a refurb MacBook Pro 15-inch. I've never heard of anybody having issues with refurbs beyond the things that you would have without a refurb. Refurbs are not, let's say they're lovingly used, gently used. They're all taken in by Apple, given a once, twice, 3 times over, checked every way that a regular non-refurb Mac would be. Has the same warranty as a refurb Mac. Just a little bit cheaper, but not a lot cheaper. Maybe you'll get 100, 200, 300 bucks off, but you're not looking at refurbs. Don't expect you to get a refurb half price MacBook Air from Apple because refurbs are not heavily used. There's not a lot of depreciation, so Apple charges awfully close to list for them. So keep that in mind when you look for a refurb. I got an email from Lauren Finkelstein about memories of when I started listening to YML. That's what I want from you guys. Patty was saying in the IRC chat room that she remembers listening to YML before it was YML. When did you guys send me emails on air at yourmaclifeshow.com about when you started listening to me, no matter what guise of the show, whether it be Your Mac Life or The Mac Show or Apple Talk or whatever the heck it was, but I was doing it at some point in a long time. So send emails to those, and we might read some on the anniversary show or the show afterwards. Things like that. The anniversary show, I think, is going to be long. I think we're going to go long with the anniversary show, just fair warning. That's it, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us. All you folks join us in the IRC chat room. I really appreciate you guys being in there. It makes the show even more fun to see the feedback I get from you guys in the IRC. Thanks to all you folks who watched via the Google Hangouts or watched via YouTube. And as always, thanks very much to the thousands and thousands of you guys who tune in to the archive of the show. It's greatly appreciated. And as always, send me your comments anytime you'd like, whether you listen to the live show or the archive on air at yourmaclifeshow.com. So until next week, as always, I've been Sean King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!